This is Stereoactive Presents. I'm your host, Jeremiah McVeigh, and in this episode, I'm joined by Jacqueline Solar to discuss the debut film by writer and director Ari Aster, distributed by A24. Hereditary stars Toni Collette, Gabriel Byrne, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, and Ann Dowd. In just a moment, you'll hear Jacqueline's review of Hereditary, followed by my discussion with her about the film.
Hereditary is a story about grief, so naturally it begins with a death. Artist Annie Graham attends the funeral of her mother, Ellen, who passed away before the film begins. Through a eulogy, Annie reveals that she had a tenuous relationship with her mother. Ellen was domineering yet distant, shutting out her own family with her secret rituals and secret friends. Although there was a period of estrangement, Annie not even letting Ellen anywhere near her firstborn, Peter, Annie eventually allowed her mother to live with her by the time her daughter, Charlie, was born. Subsequently, Ellen took a disturbing interest in Charlie, even insisting on being the one to feed her, so it's no surprise when Charlie begins seeing apparitions of her dead grandmother not long after the funeral. From then on, Hereditary only gets weirder, hitting full tilt by its last act. Despite its unambiguous, bizarre ending, Hereditary's success is placed in Ari Aster's command of atmosphere, foregoing cheap jump scares in favor of an escalating, foreboding tension that permeates each scene.
From this point on, we may discuss elements of the plot for Hereditary that some would consider spoilers, so if you do not want to know anything about the plot for this movie, you should skip ahead to the next part of the podcast, but please do come back once you've seen it to hear discussion. So, Jackie, I think you summed this up pretty well, especially there at the end. It is a very atmospheric film. And for me, I enjoyed not knowing where this was going. And it seemed like from scene to scene, it was about... It was skillful in that each scene had an atmosphere to it and a build. And you kind of didn't know, as the scenes occurred, how some of them related to other scenes. You didn't know where you were going with it. And I've heard some people refer to this as having a twist. And to me, if there's a twist in this movie, it's nearer the beginning than the end, especially because of the trailer, you think that it's going to be about this girl, and big spoiler alert again, it's not about her. I mean, it is, but the physical character dies so quickly in the movie. And I was so shocked. It was the only time I had anything close to a jump in this movie. I literally put my hand over my mouth and said, "Oh my God," when it happened, because it was very intense, and you could kind of see it coming, and it was still a shock. But to me, the ending of this movie isn't a twist. It's a reveal, and it's a reveal that kind of puts everything into focus and makes everything have a purpose and a meaning. And it's rare that I think a movie pulls that off in a way that really makes things retroactively coherent. And I thought it was super impressive, because there were those scene to scene, moment to moment, atmospheric sort of creepiness moments and things like that. But then at the end, it all meant something, where before you couldn't tell if it would or not. That's where I was with it. No jump scares. I didn't think it was jump scares. It was about skillful filmmaking and having some sort of an end point that it was moving to, even if you didn't know what it was or couldn't see it coming yourself. And I really appreciated that. For as far as I saw it, until then, a lot of what happened you could write off as having been in the character's head or something like that, and maybe this is a realistic movie and could have taken place in the real world.
I know that with the filmmaker, he wanted to create this film that was a satanic ritual from the perspective of the people being sacrificed, which was an interesting take. I like ambiguous endings better. And so that ending, I wasn't really feeling it. I would have liked it better if they kept it did it happen, or is it all in their head? especially with the buildup of like this family having all this mental illness, like her mom having DID, and her brother killing himself from suffering from some mental disorder as well. Like it's always been a part of her family, so I thought that would be interesting to just explore the ambiguity that you can have with that, and also expand on like how grief can lead to people like just going batshit insane and just like losing it just from like the overwhelming feeling of grief. I agree that this film is very much about this twist of losing a family member and the familial grief that stems from this. And it reminds me a lot also because like A Quiet Place kind of had that same idea where like they lose this family member early on, and then the resulting film is just like them dealing with this grief. But Aster tackles it in a different way and creates like this feeling of dread that follows the family everywhere in more of an atmospheric sense rather than like this creature film, which A Quiet Place was.
I hadn't thought about that connection to A Quiet Place. To me, the big difference is that trailer for this movie was so smart in setting you up to think that this kind of creepy character was going to be one of the focal points of the movie. And in a way she is, but sort of off screen for most of the film. And I did not see that coming. You know, I didn't think that that's what was going to happen. And until it was happening, I didn't really anticipate it.
I also appreciate the inspirations. Like you could tell that it was like heavily inspired by Rosemary's Baby, especially at the end with the satanic ritual with all the naked people. That remind me a lot of Rosemary's Baby when they were like impregnating her by Satan. Like they had all those naked people in the room watching her. And then just like the symbol, like it reminded me of when they drew the symbol on Rosemary's body. Like it had a similar look, but it's different. I know that that's an actual symbol of King Paimon, who's like one of the kings of hell. And I know that was a conscious choice to choose this guy, this demon, instead of Satan himself, because Aster felt that it was like overdone to just keep doing things about Satan.
Yeah, it makes it a little more interesting because it seems like almost out of left field or something. It's very specific.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your audience like? Because mine were kind of like incredulous about a lot of things. Like one specific moment sticks out in my mind is when Toni Collette's character is already like possessed and she's in
towards the end.
Yeah, Peter's room. I like that they had her lurking in the corner, but then when she like flew away, everyone like laughed really hard at that because it looked so ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't call my crowd incredulous. It seemed like everybody was very like kind of wrapped in the moment with the movie. I can't remember where it happened, but there was a moment or two in the movie where people laughed, but I kind of thought it was like a nervous laughter because like to me, and I'm not the first person to say this, but there's a lot of like similarities between a good comedy and a good horror film in that it's really about like this reaction that you don't have a control over, you know, like you either laugh or you jump or something. And there's like sometimes a fine line between the two, which is odd. And I love when a horror movie makes you laugh. Or makes people uncomfortable enough to laugh because it almost just means like people don't know how to react. So I don't know if that's what happened in your screening. I have no idea, but that did happen in mine. I felt
right. Well, I felt like just for that specific moment, people were just kind of like, "What the fuck?" Because it looks so funny because she's just like moving her limbs wildly around, like almost like she's like a spider crawling across the air.
This might have been something also where you see the movie and how you see the movie might affect it because I saw it at a movie theater that I sometimes think that they don't change their projector bulbs often enough.
Uh-huh.
And so like it was sort of like a faint something in the corner. And I was like, is that her? I can't quite tell.
I feel like that would have been better.
Yeah.
So like you can't really tell what she was doing.
Yeah, maybe I got lucky with that in this case.
Because I know I've read reactions online and some people were like legitimately scared by that. And I was really confused because I was like, that looked so weird because
Yeah, well, that reminds me of The Exorcist, that scene that I think was not in the original theatrical cut, but then was in one of the reissues, like I think for the, what would it have been, the 25th anniversary or 30th anniversary of her walking down the stairs.
Right, the crab
bento.
walk.
Yeah. Like, it's such a fucking weird thing that, like, I think it does evoke laughter and sort of horror at the same time. So I could see this as being analogous to that. Again, like, my experience of it sounds like it was different than yours just through circumstance, but I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah, I feel like horror movies is dependent a lot on who you watch it with.
Yeah.
Because if there's a lot of people who are jumpy or scared, it helps add to the atmosphere.
Sometimes it can take you out too, though.
I feel like it all depends if like they're being too overzealous.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, I saw some critic that I follow. I can't remember who. I happened to see the beginning of their review, and it said something about like, or maybe it was on Twitter. I don't remember, but it was something where it wasn't. I knew there wasn't going to be a spoiler in it, and they were just like, "Don't go see this movie at night when there's going to be performative bros there, like laughing and jumping at all the right moments on purpose or something like that."
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
people
that's annoying.
You know, performative audience members who like want you to know they got it. Like, that's so goddamn annoying.
That's very obnoxious.
So I it felt to me like in my audience, people were legitimately in the moment with the movie, and I don't know if that was just because I was and I was able to tune people out or whatever, but I had a good audience.
That's good. I think the biggest scare though was definitely when Charlie gets her head like plowed off.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's like that crunch. So, and then the reveal the next morning was crazy with the ants all over her face. And then later you see her head on that dummy of King, what's his name? Paimon.
Yeah. Like
with the crown on. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of the imagery in here, like especially Toni Collette when she's hanging from the ceiling and like chopping her head off. Was she using like the chain from her necklace? I couldn't really tell what
I didn't know what it was. Like I thought I didn't know if it was like piano wire or something. I have no idea. But I don't know what it was. But yeah, it was so creepy.
There's a lot of things that I want to rewatch. Like I want to rewatch this film to catch a lot of details because there's a lot of like devil in the details going on with this film. Like apparently the sign was on the pole that Charlie hit her head on. And that's supposed to be like symbolizing that the cult was behind her death because they want to transfer the demon from her body to the son's body.
That is crazy. I don't buy that. But I mean, how would they have orchestrated that specific series of events? Like, you know,
there's this whole thing. So like, you know, like going back to,
I guess they're cursed, so anything could happen. But
to like Rosemary's Baby, when like they used their rituals to curse certain people to get what they want. I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like they just work their magic on it.
Yeah, I guess you could kind of rationalize away anything when that comes into play. I liked that I didn't know about that in that moment. But yeah, I do think this is the type of movie that could definitely warrant multiple viewings, and you could get something more out of it. And that's why I think it's important that it's not a twist. To me, at the end, it's a reveal. Like it's not something that is like all of a sudden. It's not like I was watching this movie thinking I was watching one thing and sure of it, and then all of a sudden everything is like thrown into a new light. It was like I didn't know what the fuck I was watching, and then all of a sudden I knew. You know,
right? So, I don't. What has there been people saying that there was a twist?
I saw people calling it a twist online.
The thing where there's a ritual, is that what they were calling the twist, or that the girl died?
They were saying the twist at the end. But which I think people just throw around twist to get you to click on shit now. You know, like it's like on YouTube, like the twist ending were explained, and you know, like explainer videos from like film channels on
because I
YouTube
feel like,
or whatever.
Oh, I guess the twist would be like her finding out her mom was part of this cult. But I feel like it was hinted at since the beginning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't think there was anything at the end that seemed unmotivated from stuff that was there before. It was just like you didn't quite know how to read it, or at least I didn't feel like I did. And then once things sort of came into focus, you're like, oh, shit, that's what was going on that whole time.
Right.
And it didn't like take away. It didn't say like, no, you were wrong. It said like, here's what it is.
Right. Yeah. They're just like, I know I hate to go back to Rosemary's Baby, but it was like
it's hard not to.
Yeah, because it's like it's the same thing. Like they put little details in it so that when at the very end when it's revealed that as part of this satanic ritual, all the pieces fall together, and you can see like back. If you look back on, you can see like their hand and everything. Like you could see Anne Dowd in the meeting, trying to get her way to Toni Collette's character and to worm her way into her life and to get her to trust her and want to do all these things, like the rituals and stuff to lead up to her son being possessed.
Yeah. And the performances are great. Like Toni Collette
she's so good.
Yeah, I mean, not that that's a surprise at this point.
Right.
I mean, when is Toni Collette not good, even in something not as good as she is? But and Gabriel Byrne playing that Gabriel Byrne sort of
I felt so bad for his character because he's kind of just like, I just want my family to be together, and it's like they're also I don't know, volatile or something.
I think he's so good at playing that character who is supportive and then has a breaking point and it's like, no, I'm done.
Right.
Stop fucking around.
Right.
And I feel like I've seen him do that before, and he's just really good at it. And then even the kids are great.
Right.
Even for the short amount of time she's on screen, I don't know her name, but the character
who plays Charlie.
Yeah, the actor who plays Charlie is great. And then the son, Peter, he was great. At first, I sort of wasn't sure about him, but like as the movie starts to move towards him being more central, he really like bears that burden well. And
the way that he deals with the aftermath of his sister's death, like from the moment he's like in shock to the moment where he's dealing with his grief and being confronted by his mom.
Right.
I thought that scene was really great with them around the dinner table.
Yeah, those family moments where it's just like this intense drama that doesn't really rely on anything that has to do with it being a horror film. It's just almost that part of it becomes incidental for a moment. It's like these characters have fucking drama in their lives.
Yeah, and I appreciated it. Yeah. And then I also really like that scene that turns out it turns out to be a dream where she tells him that she never wanted him and she never wanted to have kids.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that moment there's like a dream inside of a dream, I think.
Right. There's like, so because she sleepwalks, so you're not really sure if it's real or not.
Yeah. And I like that that's how they kind of set this up of like I said before, it seems like everything in the movie up to a certain point you could explain away. And I think that's because they set up the sleepwalking as something is like you don't know if she's a sleepwalker or maybe she even has multiple personalities or something at the same time, like, and all this stuff. At one point I thought Anne Dowd's character was like completely made up in her head, possibly, and it has all these things there that you can just sort of latch onto and come up with your own theory, and then in the end you kind of know to some degree, but I don't think it also invalidates any of that. It's like you don't know what was real and what wasn't because people are being cursed and under these influences outside of themselves because of the forces at work on them. But any final things you want to bring up?
I really like the parallel with the miniatures.
Yeah.
Only just because, like, not only is it a metaphor for manipulation and how the families are basically like dolls in this dollhouse, but then they also used it in the aesthetic of like the exterior of the house, and then they made it look kind of like a model with the lens that they used.
Right. Like did they do a tilt
tilt shift?
Tilt shift, that's what I meant.
And how the director plays with day and night, like it's like a switch that's flipped,
right?
Kind of like a lamp or something. So it really gives this feeling that everything is orchestrated by like this unseen. I don't want to say God because if it's like a demon, then it's like what are they? But like some unseen force, yeah. Orchestrating this whole thing, which I thought was really cool. I like that aesthetic about it too, and it really adds to the creepiness too, because dollhouses are inherently creepy, I think.
Yeah, I think they definitely can be. They're easy to make creepy.
Yeah,
they're maybe not easy to not make creepy.
Yeah,
but yeah, I agree with you. I'm right there. All right, well, I think that about covers it.
Oh wait, so like
okay, one last thing.
Yeah, this was like your number one film on your list for summer movies. Do you think it will stay as number one, or?
I think so. I kind of caught up on some like writing some thoughts in my letterboxed thing today, and did my year so far list, and this is at number 2, right behind Death to Stalin at the moment.
Okay.
Best movie I've seen this summer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then what are the other ones on your list? Can you remind me?
Oh, that's a good question. What was on my list? I think Under the Silver Lake.
Oh, which was pushed to December.
Yeah, that got pushed back. Sorry to bother you.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I think 8th Grade was on there.
8th Grade was on there, and I can't remember the. Oh no, I didn't have Black Klansman because I knew Chuck was going to cover that.
Oh.
I can't recall.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just gonna keep a lookout and see how if this will stay at number 1
for me. Or
yeah, for you.
Okay.
Well, this movie was number 4 for me.
Yeah.
Above Hearts Beat Loud, and I mean it's above Hearts Beat Loud. I thought it was like very enjoyable, and I love atmospheric movies. So yeah, I definitely recommend this film.
Yeah, same. That said, I don't think it's for everybody. If you're not a fan of atmospheric horror films, you might want to stay away from it.
That's another thing. With the ending, sometimes people like a more ambiguous ending. So like that's another thing, I guess, to keep in mind.
I can't say I prefer one over the other. To me, it's all about the execution. Like I love a good ambiguous ending, but I also love a good solid ending that tells me what it is. To me, it doesn't matter as long as it's done well. It's about the execution as much as about the content in a way.
For me, I think the ending didn't really work only because like to show all your cards and then to have it be this kind of ridiculous ending. I don't know. Maybe it's also like with the audience, but it just felt really bizarre.
I thought it was bizarre, but I didn't mind. I thought it was cool. I don't know. I didn't mind. I liked the ending. Okay. Well, thank you, Jackie.
No problem.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation about Ari Aster's Hereditary. Thank you for listening to Stereoactive Presents, and thank you to our guest, Jacqueline Solar. The music in this podcast is composed by Hansdale Sue. My name is Jeremiah Lee McVeigh. If you like what you hear in this show, please rate and review it in Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that allows that. Doing so helps us to expand our audience, and it is much appreciated. And please follow us wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. Every little bit helps, and again, it is truly appreciated. You can also get in touch with us at stereoactivemedia@gmail.com. And you can find more information about this show and everything else the Stereoactive Media is involved with at stereoactivemedia.com.
This podcast is produced by Stereoactive Media.